our typical in-person kickoff event. And it's felt a little bit more like a mountain bike ride than a road ride, but hopefully it's gonna be smooth sailing from here. My name is Daniel Medley. I am the Silicon Valley Associate Director of Development. I'm relatively new to the ADA, so I'm really excited to be here. Tonight, I will also be the MC of this event. And going forward, I'll be your liaison for all things Tour to Cure. So feel free to reach out to me at any time. My contact information is listed on the Silicon Valley Tour to Cure website. When you go to that page, it's right at the bottom there. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to David Pesha. He's been instrumental in forming our partnership with ADA and VMware, as well as assisting and organizing this kickoff. And then also on our IT support, we have Elia Cravioto from VMware running the back end for us. Now, before we get into it, I just wanted to give an overview of the program. First and foremost, we're going to have Alan Kissick. He is the Northern California Director of the American Diabetes Association. Executive Director. And he's going to be going over the American Diabetes Association mission and why this cause is important. After that, we have our first keynote speaker. We're privileged to have Pat Gelsinger, the CEO of VMware and our Executive Chair. And I'd be remiss to not mention that he was recently named Forbes Magazine #1 CEO in the country. After that, our second keynote speaker is Simi Sheddy. She is the American Diabetes Association Youth Ambassador, and she's going to be sharing us an amazing story about her journey with diabetes. Once that's over, I'm going to be going over the nuts and bolts, the infrastructure of the tour, what virtualization is going to look like, what we're going to be doing leading up to the tour, as well as what the day of the event is going to look like. And then finally, we're going to close it out with Alan Kissick again to give us a message on the current state of the AVDA. Just a quick note, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at any time. If you go to the bottom of your screen, you hover your cursor over the bottom, there is a button that says Q&A. Feel free to type in a question at any time, and we will try and get to them at the very end of this session. Now, that being said, there's also another button at the bottom. There's a button that says Raise Hand. And what I'd like to do, and something we do with most of our kickoffs, is if I encourage you to click that button, Raise Hand, if you or someone you know has a personal connection to diabetes, and that's your motivation for joining us today. I'll just give you a moment.
Wow, a lot of hands coming up.
Yeah. As we expected, diabetes is it's a lot more widespread than we imagine, and or as I imagine, I should say. Before I first joined the ADA, and it is I know this word has been thrown around a lot these past few months, but it is in all senses of the term an epidemic, something we need to really be cognizant of. So thank you for sharing. And then finally, this seminar is going to be recorded. So you feel free to revisit this at any time. We will be forwarding a link to all of you on Facebook and on YouTube. So you can revisit this if you missed any information, if you joined late. Also, if you want to forward this to teammates that couldn't be here, or if you have any future team members that join at a later date, you can forward this to them as an all-encompassing seminar. So without further ado, let's take this helmet off here. Okay. All right. And I want to give a special shout out real quick to our sponsors. We have VMware, that is also our host for the evening. It's a cloud computing and virtualization software company. We have Amazon, needs no introduction. They do e-commerce, cloud computing, digital streaming, and AI. MGO, which is a services firm that uses professionals to drive innovation. Biorad, it's a manufacturer of life science products for research and diagnostics. Star One Credit Union, the biggest and largest Silicon Valley member-owned financial institution. Purecane, which is they manufacture a revolutionary sweetener that's it's natural, non-GMO, gluten-free, 0 calorie, And the big kicker, it is diabetes friendly, which is really, really cool. And then finally, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. It's a labor union, represents about 750,000 folks worldwide. And now it is my privilege to introduce to you the Northern California Executive Director for the American Diabetes Association, Alan Kissick.
Thank you, Danny. And I wanted to just kind of start off by echoing what Danny mentioned. Thank you for our sponsors for going above and beyond for the American Diabetes Association right now, and to each and every one of you, the participants here today that have joined us, and our panelists here that are a part of this conversation here today. Really, you all are our mission. And I know this for a fact because I'm living with type 1 diabetes myself. And actually 3 weeks after I was diagnosed, I had a lot of questions. I was scared. I was lost. I didn't know anybody with diabetes, but I participated in a tour de cure. And when I showed up on that day, I met my community. I met people living with diabetes just like myself. I found all the answers that I was looking for, which many of them people did not talk about online. And, I found out that the majority of the people that participated in the event actually did not have diabetes. They were doing it out of the goodness of their heart to support the cause, to build a movement to stop diabetes. And that gave me hope, and that gave me inspiration. And that's one of the reasons why 15 years later, I just had my anniversary with diabetes just last week. I'm still here at the American Diabetes Association. You all are our mission. You make it possible through your hard work, your fundraising. We've been a volunteer-driven organization for 80 years. This is our 80th anniversary. You make it all possible. And that mission is to prevent and cure diabetes and improve the lives of everybody affected by diabetes. In my personal journey, Danny, you could please advance the slide. In my personal journey with diabetes, I started off being the only person that I knew with diabetes. But since then, my wife developed prediabetes, first starting with gestational diabetes, my sister, type 1 diabetes, both of my wife's parents, type 2 diabetes. And I have a feeling that that's a pretty familiar story here today. So the work that we do is really important, obviously, especially now, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But the work that we do falls into 4 buckets. First and foremost, trying to stop the prevalence of diabetes by raising awareness about the risk of type 2 diabetes. And thank you for everybody that participated in our risk assessment earlier. We fund diabetes research, innovative diabetes research for all the different types of diabetes, type 1, type 2, gestational. And a lot of that research is right here in the Bay Area. And right now, we're also doing a lot of research on diabetes and COVID-19, which is really important because there is a really strong connection that we'll talk a little bit more about here today. And whether you know it or not, we're actually in every hospital around the United States. We create the gold standard in diabetes care. The treatments, the algorithms that are used by healthcare professionals are designed by the American Diabetes Association, and we do the professional education, providing CME credit to these healthcare professionals to allow them to grow in diabetes care and keep up with the technology and the treatments. And then last but not least, we engage the diabetes community. This is one way, obviously, that we engage the community through the Tour de Cure, but we do so much more than that. And in fact, we mobilize the community into a lot of our advocacy work, and this is critical right now because people with diabetes are one of the highest rates of hospitalization related to COVID-19. So we're fighting to ensure that these people have coverage, that they still have access to healthcare during these times where they might be going through layoffs, maybe they have diabetes and COVID-19. So our work is more important than ever. And I just wanted to say as well that this week we had a huge advance in our advocacy efforts as well. On Tuesday, policymakers in Sacramento, the health committee decided to cap insulin at $50, which is huge because insulin right now is the most expensive liquid around. Now, we haven't gotten there yet because it still needs to go to the Appropriations Committee for that final vote, which is the hard part. But wanted to mention it as one of our pillars in the work that we do. So Many of you know the data, around diabetes prevalence. There's over 150 million Americans living with diabetes. I'm sure many of them are on this call right now. And every 21 seconds, someone is diagnosed with diabetes. When I started working at the ADA, we actually had to change the name of type 1 diabetes, juvenile diabetes to type 1 diabetes, and adult onset diabetes to type 2 diabetes, because children, were developing, even at the age of toddlers, type 2 diabetes. That's the situation that we're dealing with. That's the problem that we're dealing with. And, they're saying, there was a recent study by the CDC that said this could be the first generation in the history of man that our children will live shorter lifespans than that of our parents. Now, this is only if trends continue, and the good news is we can stop that trend. And I can't think of a better state to drive that change. So right here in California, there's over 13 million Americans that either have prediabetes or undiagnosed diabetes, which is huge. Another 2.5 million Americans, Californians, have diabetes. That's 10% of the population, and this is a dense state. Right here in the Bay Area, there's over 350,000 people living with diabetes. Now, what these slides don't say is our current situation that we're dealing with COVID-19. And we'll tell you a little bit more about the vulnerability of people with diabetes. But one of the reasons why we're doing this virtually today is because people are at risk. People with diabetes are vulnerable. And it is our mission to improve the lives of people with diabetes. So if we had one person fall ill or go sick or unfortunately die because of an event that we threw to raise money and build that community, we would not be fulfilling our mission. So we virtualized every event nationwide. And we were disappointed that we weren't able to do our original physical event because we had such an amazing year lined up. We not only returned to our beloved routes in Palo Alto at VMware. Thanks again to VMware for hosting not only our physical tour, at least what was the physical tour, but now our virtual tour. And we also had, Pat Gelsinger as our executive chair, who is still our executive chair. And if you're not familiar with Pat and VMware, you'll learn more here in a few moments. But VMware helps companies and nonprofits go digital to enter the virtual world. So I can't think of a better chair as we enter the 2020 virtual tour de cure than Pat Gelsinger. So it is my privilege and my honor to introduce Pat. Pat, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you very much, Alan, and to those on the line tonight, good evening. Pleasure to spend some time with you. Obviously, I speak on behalf of VMware tonight. And of course, that means David from my team does all the work, and I get to do the talking. But we are excited to back this up, not just by my own role as chair, but also with a team that's supporting me in it. Let me just quickly a little bit about myself. I'm now coming up 7.5 years as CEO of VMware. Before that was 3 years with emcee, and before that a short 30-year stint with Intel. And so I'm right about 40 years in technology. I believe I think I started when I was 8. Right, I keep pushing that age back, but 40 years in technology. I've really had a Cinderella career in many respects, helping Intel and microprocessors, 14 generations of microprocessors at Intel, helped to create things like USB and Wi-Fi. And we were in the Bay Area for 10 years, had all of our children here, moved to Oregon for 20 years, moved to the Bay Area, moved to Boston for 3 years. And then the VMware opportunity was presented to me. And when I said yes to the VMware opportunity, my wife, even though she of course supports me, she clawed her way across the nation from Boston, quite uncertain if this is where she wanted to make her home. And having lived here before, she was very, very reluctant. But then magic happened. 1, 2, 3 kids, and now 7 grandkids are in the Bay Area. So we are Bay Area folk, period. I could go anywhere I want on the planet. She's staying right here. I used to be the most important thing in her life. Now I'm number 8. and hopefully I'm not part of number 10, right? Even in the top 10 in the future, but very committed to the efforts of the Bay Area. We are also extremely philanthropically focused. We have about 8 different charities that we're quite involved with, this being one of those. We've started a couple of different charities that we've invested in greatly. Whether you choose to be participating with ADA or something else, I say if you're on this call, you are wealthy, right? You've been blessed, and you should be finding ways to give back in much more extreme ways than you do today. Linda and I made a commitment many years ago that we would increase the percentage of our gross income that we would give to charities each year. We made that commitment 35 years ago. We started at 10, so we're closing in on 50% of our gross income each year going to different charities. So we are all into philanthropies. We've been blessed, and we would encourage you to invest heavily, more heavily. And I'd say secondly, I'm delighted to be chairing the ADA ride. Doing things like this, I guess, are sort of my thing, right? Getting exercise and raising money, but also then going to all of my rich friends and all of my not so rich friends, right? And cajoling them to commit and give as well to great causes. And finding ways to be giving back, encouraging others to give back, also demonstrating that for VMware, encouraging all of our employees to be contributing and participating. After this call, I'll launch my personal fundraiser for ADA as well, and I have about 400, and some of you might be on that target list. I'm coming after you, right? Because we're going to raise money for ADA, and it is a personal thing as well, not just to give to charities, not just to be giving back. I did have a cousin that died of complications from diabetes about a year and a half ago. And it is something that if it isn't affecting you personally, somebody in your immediate circle is being affected by it. As Alan was referencing a bit, the statistics for underlying conditions with COVID are dramatically higher, right, in terms of impact of those needing hospitalization, ventilators, needing acute care requirements. And ADA amongst those is the most prevailing and diabetes is the most prevailing underlying condition for those statistics, with need for extreme hospitalization or for death for those with COVID, and diabetes is 3 to 4x of the normal population. So this is acutely affecting the community with diabetes as well. So not only do we have a global pandemic, right, that should be encouraging all of us to find more aggressive ways to be giving back, but also it's affecting this community of those touched by diabetes even more significantly. So with that, I just say it's my honor to be a chair of the event this year. I'm going to go ride, I'm going to go fundraise, and I encourage all of you who are on this call and all of your friends and those in your circles to go do likewise. And thanks for giving me a few minutes to join the conversation this evening. Back to you.
Thanks, Pat. And I can't say enough from all of us at the ADA. We really appreciate everything you do for us and how long you've been doing it. So we're looking forward to having you as the executive chair. Now, moving on to our youth ambassador, the American Diabetes Association Youth Ambassador, Simi Sheddy. This young lady is an amazing speaker. She's amazingly eloquent. When I first had the opportunity to hear her speak in front of a room full of high-level movers and shakers in San Francisco, her storytelling commanded their respect. And by the end of the speech, you could hear a pin drop in the room. So I'm honored to present Ms. Simi Shetty. Simi, take it away.
Thank you, Danny. At first, I was just Simi. Simi, who was fun, outgoing, and loved cupcakes. Simi, who you could tell anything to, and she wouldn't tell anyone. Simi, who had a dream. My life was normal. I was a 12-year-old who had more dreams than there was time in life, who hated going to school just like any other kid you meet. I had everything I could ever want. I was vice president of my middle school, getting straight A's, had all the friends you could need, and was happy. From a young age, if as far as I can remember, I had a sweet tooth. My eyes would light up at the sight of ice cream, cupcakes, candy, you name it. However, to make myself feel better, I told myself it was only human. A quick fun fact I want to share with you is that the reason why humans always crave for anything more to eat that's sweet dates back to the time our ancestors were Neanderthals. And for those of you that didn't pay attention in 6th grade, that means early human. You see, back in the day when our ancestors stumbled upon something sweet to eat, they carried an instinct that told them that they might not find something to eat again for several days, so they should load up for the long term. As generations went on, the instinct had passed on. The problem now is that we're able to eat whatever we want at any given time we desire, for this instinct was meant to provide for times that we weren't able to eat for several days at a time. As I grew up, I found it easy to blame my eating habits on this fact that I heard from my science teacher. I would come home from school and eat whatever I could find in my pantry, and at times, even when I thought it was too much to eat, I would eat it anyway and tell myself that my diet would start tomorrow. Keep in mind that I told myself this every day, so that tomorrow never technically came. So there were numerous times where in order to make myself feel better, my mom would make the whole family go on an attempted diet, but it never really worked out due to the fact that my family loves to eat. Let me tell you, if I had $1 for every time my mom made our family go on a diet, I would be swimming in money right now. Anyway, let's look at this like a movie. If the movie had no climax or no twists, then I can assure you it wouldn't have much in the box office. So on September 29th, 2018 was when my movie had its climax. It was a minimum day at school, and my mom and I had lunch plans for later that day. I danced my way to her car, and she pulled up in the pickup lane of my middle school. I opened the car door, expecting her and my sister to be smiling bright, or at least as excited as I was. I sat down, and I immediately picked up on this anxious vibe that piled across the car. I knew something was wrong since the radio wasn't turned on. She handed me this lunchbox filled with a healthy lunch with lentils and a salad, and I looked at her and I frowned and I asked, "Is this a joke?" We made eye contact in the car mirror and she told me we were going to the hospital. There were a number of possibilities that my mind had stirred up, but somehow it managed to convince me of the simplest one. Once I had officially gotten the news, my life turned upside down. I was a 12-year-old with type 2 diabetes. I remember on the drive home from the hospital, it was pin drop silence. That anxious vibe that I first sensed in the car was back. She drove me to school, and for the first time in my middle school career, I discovered the nurse's office. My new lifestyle included pricking my finger before every meal in order to understand what I needed to eat. Upon my first day of pricking my finger at school, I discovered 2 other boys who were there before me. From further investigation, I discovered they were type 1 diabetics. Believe it or not, we hit off immediately. We called ourselves the Diabetes Amigos and even had a little handshake to go with it. It wasn't too bad is what I told myself. I tried to conceal the secret of having a disease in fear that my middle school social status would go down, but it's middle school, so eventually it slipped out. To my surprise, they were pretty accepting for the most part, but of course, in a bunch of grapes, you'll always have a couple of sour ones, so I just had to brush them off. My family comes from Indian descent, and if you've ever had Indian food before, you know how rich in oils and fat it can be. As of the day I got back from the hospital, with no questions asked, we started this new diet of the grossest green stuff you've ever seen. That's when we decided that being diabetic shouldn't be a punishment. You should be able to enjoy what you eat, whether it's healthy or not. For months and months, I stuck to this diet plan of having 1 egg in the morning, mushrooms and spinach in the afternoon, and salmon for dinner. I'll admit it got tiring the first couple of weeks, but it's not like I had a choice, so we ended up sticking to it. After 4 months, meaning around December of 2018, I went to check my A1C number again with my mom. After results had come back, I was pleased to see that my hard work had paid off. I got my A1C number from a 7.2 to a 5.11, and that was the best news I could have gotten at the time. Besides diet, I had already been involved in several sports like soccer 5 times a week, taekwondo 3 times a week, and so on and so forth. While continuing my efforts towards a healthy lifestyle, around August of 2019, I came in contact with the ADA Bay Area to share my story. I knew that, like me, there were several others, especially youth, who needed support in their diabetic journey. As a freshman in high school, I will be serving my first year as a youth advocate for the ADA Bay Area and plan on staying local with them for as long as possible. I'm so excited to see where this year's Tour de Cure takes us, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Thanks, Simi. It's I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to working with you for years to come as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's move into the nuts and bolts of the Tour de Cure and virtualization this year. So first of all, save the date. That is happening on October 18th, 2020. We will be doing the virtual ride. Now, before we get into what the virtual ride is going to look like, I want to go over what the roadmap to the tour looks like. And so the roadmap to the tour, we've developed this as a way to lead up to the event. In the mini conversations that I've had with the participants, one thing stood out to me as a ubiquitous detail, and that was the sense of community and camaraderie that surrounds the tour. When we first announced that we were virtualizing this year, the concern was that this camaraderie was in jeopardy. And so in light of that, we've established what we call the roadmap, and this is to keep everyone engaged with the hope that there's a silver lining that comes out of this, and that it strengthens involvement for teams for years to come. So first up, we have Strava. It's a ride tracking app. I'll go into more detail in a moment, but it's essentially a platform that allows you to share your training rides, whether indoor on a stationary bike, or if you decide to venture outdoors. We'll also be going to be using the traditional social media platforms of Facebook and Instagram. And we've designed a schedule of daily posts. So on Mondays, we have our Mission Mondays, which is how the ADA is impacting the world around us. Tuesdays, we'll share participant stories where I'll reach out to many of you and share your journey, much as Simi just did. On Wednesdays, we'll have Workout Wednesdays to help shed some of these pounds we've been putting on during the shelter in place. Thursdays, we'll have this is actually probably my favorite day, the team happy hour. We're going to invite a single team to join the ADA staff and kind of get to know you, share some stories and a few laughs. And then finally wrapping up the week on Friday, we'll have food recipes tailored to diabetic needs, but they're actually delicious and they're for everyone. And then on the weekends, we will have our training challenges. So that's the roadmap to the tour. So stay tuned for that with Facebook and Instagram and Strava. And then for the actual day of the Tour de Cure, this is where all roads lead to here. The biggest question that we get is about the routes, riding, running, and walking. So for the routes, you have several options. First, you can ride anywhere you choose. So if you look on the map on the right side of the screen here, you'll see that a rider actually tracked himself on Strava to create a picture of a buck. That actually may be a fun challenge in the future. We'll see. But whether you're in the Bay Area, you're on vacation in Kathmandu, you can still participate anywhere in the world. Second, if you're inclined to revisit one of the historic Palo Alto routes that we had planned, you can certainly ride there. Third, on the Strava platform, they actually have a feature where you can look up any location in the world and it will recommend routes for you. I definitely encourage everyone to check that out as well. And then finally, if you're more of the competitive type, which I know we do have a few, you can find someone else's route on Strava, follow their path, and maybe try and get a high score. The routes can be of any distance, and although we do encourage you to get out there and break a sweat and get your heart pumping. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing the ride tracking through Strava, but we do recognize that there are many other out there. There's Fitbit, Apple Watch, Garmin, Google Maps. So you can share with those. You can share with us on those as well for the day of. And then for the day of, we're going to be active on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to be cross-posting there, and we will be. We're going to have a Facebook live stream, so you can have some entertainment after you finish your ride. Now, I do want to note, we decided to go virtual for the safety of our constituents. and we didn't think that was any way we could hold a large-scale event safely. So since everyone can participate however and wherever they choose, we will not have any support personnel on any of the routes, nor will we have any of the standard rest stops. So we want you to ride careful, make sure that you've trained for the ride, you're properly hydrated, and you have adequate communication for the day of. Just to delve into the online platforms just a little bit more, we're going to be, for the roadmap and for the day of, we're going to be able to link Facebook and Instagram together, so you can share photos, standard text posts, even video if you're so inclined. As I mentioned, we're going to have the live stream on Facebook. Strava is going to be linked to this account, so we'll be posting Strava rides. And it's important to note that all 3 of these platforms are free. You do have to make an account for them, but they're free to do. And if you search for American Diabetes Association, Silicon Valley, or Bay Area, you'll be able to find us as the top result. They're all accessible on your smartphone, and Facebook and Strava you can access on your PC as well. So if these aren't your speed, if you're a little more traditional like myself, you can always share with us via standard email or even through text message. So moving into this, I recognize that most everyone is here to support the ADA because we all share the sentiment and we believe in the mission of the ADA. But the ADA, we do want to show you our appreciation for your efforts. So presenting our fundraising incentives. Now we no longer have a fundraising minimum this year. We do have a recommended minimum. So what that means is we're hoping that you can at least raise $100. If you do so, you qualify for our Tour de Cure shirt for 2020. And if you are one of those affected by diabetes personally, you will also qualify for our Red Rider, Red Strider jersey. At the $500 level, we have the 2020 Tour de Cure jersey, which is pretty snazzy. Or you can choose a rain jacket if you have enough jerseys in your closet, in the wardrobe. Then at the $1,000 level, that is our champion level. The champions form the backbone of not only the Tour de Cure, but of all of the ADA. So at the champion level, you get our gold champion jersey. It's a real head turner. This picture does not do it justice. It is a really amazing jersey to wear. That, or you can also qualify for one of our champions podium jackets. At $2,500, we have the single personal item belt with zipper pull. $5,000, we have the sky hoodie, which is great for working out on colder days. And then at the $10,000 level, if you're a go-getter, we have our all-inclusive VIP guest package. That's an airfare, hotel, and registration into our Tour de Cure in Orlando, Florida. So when should you register? Right now, or right after we're done with the presentation. If you haven't already, make sure you go do so. Spread the word. Registration is now free. And like I said, we also released the fundraising minimums to participate. So that's also, there's no minimum aside from the recommendation of $100. So if you want to start, if you have a nationwide company or a large company, you can recruit coworkers from anywhere in the world. You can make it a corporate initiative. If you have family members that you're looking to reconnect with, or close ones, your brother-in-law in Louisiana or sister in Wisconsin, they can also join the day of. And all your friends, everyone can participate. And then I'd like to just pause for a moment, and I'd like to give a special shout out to our current champions. These are the folks that have already raised over $1,000 for us. We have Manny Hernandez, David Pecha, Greg Brown, the legendary Ozzy Bob Horn, Yvonne Murray, Andrew Legodzinski, Pat Gelsinger, Kat Fox, and Perry Fox. And we have a few more that are really close. I'm looking to put some more names on this list. Now I would like to hand the microphone back to our Northern California Executive Director, Alan Kissick.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to just echo what Danny just said. Thank you to all those champions that have been going above and beyond during this time for the American Diabetes Association. A champion is someone that raises over $1,000. I'd also like to recognize some of the teams that are just crushing it right now. Amazon, our top team right now, over $10,000. Team Red of Silicon Valley, over $4,000. VMware, over $4,000. Big Ring Riders, over $2,500. Thank you, for all of your efforts. I did want to take a quick break or a pause to give a public service announcement real quickly on behalf of all those riders living with diabetes. Go Red Riders! We're actually retiring the D word that was mentioned earlier, the word diabetic, and putting people first. So in the future, let's refer to people as people with diabetes as opposed to the D word that we mentioned earlier. I know that a lot of our Red Riders are really sensitive to that, so I wanted to mention that as well. But going back to this, this slide here, thank you again for all those people that are going above and beyond for the cause. This cause right now, as Pat mentioned, is really affected by COVID-19. And in fact, in addition to the issues mentioned earlier, there's all types of access issues too, right? Since we are, vulnerable to COVID-19 right now, we have trouble accessing our medicine, our insulin, our type 2 diabetes medications, our equipment, healthy foods. So right now is a time where people with diabetes need support. So thanks to all of those that have gone above and beyond. If you look at this red bar up here at the top, our original event date was June 14th, which is about 3 weeks away. And if you see how much we've raised so far, just under $40,000, you could see some of the challenges that many nonprofits are struggling with at the moment. And this is not unique to nonprofits. Right now the economy is not doing so well. People are losing their jobs. People don't have extra funds to throw around. In fact, the American Diabetes Association is not invincible either. Unfortunately, last week we had pretty significant layoffs here at the American Diabetes Association. But this is the moment where people with diabetes need us the most. And so what we wanted to do today was really kind of kickstart this fundraising for people with diabetes, the mission that we represent, each and every one of you and your loved ones. And so we're going to introduce just a few incentives in addition to those apparel items that were mentioned earlier. And you all don't need an incentive. You don't need a jersey or a t-shirt, because your incentive is all those people that you raised your hands for earlier. When Danny asked that question, that's why we're here. That's the mission. That's why we're working harder than ever before to ensure that those people, are protected. But through legal advocacy, through all the great work that the American Diabetes Association does. But we wanted to make it a little fun and throw in a little perks as well. So for the team captain that recruits the most participants from this Sunday into the original day of our event, June 14th, we're giving this Freddie Rodriguez, this vintage Tour de Cure jersey with a Freddie Rodriguez autograph. If you don't know Freddie Rodriguez, Fast Freddie, he's a professional cyclist. Many of you might have met him before at one of our Tour de Cures. And additionally, you might see one of my most prized possessions here in the back. This is a poster of Greg LeMond that's autographed. Well, for the person that raises the most money in the next 3 weeks, you get your own autographed Greg LeMond jersey. I'm sorry, not jersey, poster. So just a few, incentives here to kind of get us all, very excited. Again, we're here for the mission, and we're here for all those people that we raised our hand for earlier. So we wanted to build in some time as well to give you all the floor to share your stories and how you're going to make a difference at this time. And I've heard so many of these stories already in my talks with you. So if you would like to share your story, please raise your hand now. You can also chat right in the chat box, your personal story, and we'll share that as well if time permits. And then after we give you all the floor, we will then go to Q&A. All right. Well, I see one name that I recognize here that's actually at the top of our our champion list, and that's Manny Hernandez. Manny, do you want to say a few words? And Elio, you might need to give him promote him to the speaker panel. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, and let me see if I can get I don't know if there's a way to enable video, but it's fine. I can just speak. So, well, indeed, I mean, those of us, living with this, I was diagnosed back in 2002, and yeah, and I'm not dialing in from home. I'm actually dialing in from the Millennium Falcon, if you would believe me. So for us, this is personal, right? And to see firsthand the effort, the tremendous work that the association is doing on our behalf for us, and as Pat said earlier, very truthfully, like those of us in this call, are privileged, are very fortunate, but there's like hundreds of thousands, if not more, that are being so tremendously impacted by the current, pandemic, and that's on top of already challenges that we're being faced. So I think this has to be personal, and that I think is what puts us in a position to make a very appealing, ask of the people that we know to pitch in at any level. And I personally have found things like, yes, social media for sure helps. And I have posted, regularly on social to try and encourage people that I'm connected with in social media to contribute. But the best result I've seen to my asks has been in the form of directed text messages or directed emails to people that I know, that people who know my story, people who care about me, and who are willing to, go to bat for me as well, and for others with diabetes. So that would be my recommendation. What I would encourage everyone who is like start, early on in the fundraising journey. We have a long way to go till October, but get started soon and try and tap those folks that that care about you, and let them know why this matters to you. You will see the difference. You will see that turn up.
Thank you, Manny. And I'm sure many of you know Manny Hernandez. He's a big influencer in the diabetes community, and I'm sure he's influenced here today with his few words there. Another name that I recognize is actually my inspiration and around biking. She's the reason why I'm a bike nut to this day. Mary McKinley, actually a family member of mine, my aunt, who used to own a bike store. She's dialing in from Utah. Mary, would you like to say a few words? Nope. All right, no worries. Well, Mary is again dialing in from Utah. So one of the things that, oh, there she is. Okay.
Here I am. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say this is an awesome event. I am so impressed at how you've put it together, and it's just inspiring to me. I'm calling in and participating, representing a group of us here in Utah. So hope we raise a lot of money. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary. And this is a testament to the fact that you can join and participate in the Tour de Cure no matter where you are. As Danny mentioned earlier, you could be in Timbuktu and still participate in the Silicon Valley Tour de Cure. So thank you, Mary, for that inspiration. Would anybody else like to share? Kimberly?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is my first year doing Tour de Cure. I'm doing it in honor of my mother. She passed away in October from diabetes complications. She suffered a great deal with her diabetes. She ended up having a drastic low. Her blood sugar numbers were down below 20, and she went into a coma in her sleep and didn't wake up. So I decided that I wanted to start making a difference, and my husband and I made a team for the Rohnert Park Tour de Cure, and my team is called Team Bonnie, and I almost have $1,000. I'm pretty close, so I think that's my goal this year for my first year is to get $1,000. And even though we can't all meet together, I'm still super excited. My husband's an avid bike rider, and I go along and bike ride, but I'm not as good as him. But I've been training, and I'm up to 18 miles, and my goal was 30, but I'm going to do it. So.
Thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate that. All right. Would anybody else like to share their story before we go to Q&A? Sergio, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Sergio. I ride with Medley Bike Club, and I just want to share one strategy that I used last year for a different fundraiser, where in our mailing list for our cycling club, we were raising, people were donating, and I had donated too. And then I sent an email to the list offering, saying, I'm gonna match everyone's donation up to $1,000, and also saying that, and your donation is not just gonna be 2x, it's gonna be 3x, because my company, my employer, will also match my $1,000 donation, right? So basically, I showed them the math, which is not necessary, but it was I think worked pretty well. Where if you donate $100, that is actually going to become $300, right? And that sped up our fundraising like a lot. We exceeded way beyond what we were expecting to raise, and of course, I'm fortunate enough to be able to offer that. And I think if more people do that, it doesn't have to be $1,000, right? Whatever amount you can, but if you give the incentive to people to say, hey, I'm going to match everyone's donation that follow me, I'm going to go and match you too, and I'm going to get my employer to match that. So I just wanted to bring this up in case people had not thought of this, because I think it worked really well last year, and I'm going to keep doing that, because it's a way to and also it's a way to, of course, to raise more money. And I also challenge more people to join me on that, and match my match, right? Like, I want someone else to come in and say, I'm gonna, follow Sergio. I'm gonna also match the, $1,000 or less, and that happened too. So that was pretty cool. So just sharing how sharing my experience on trying to do the fundraisers.
Thank you, Sergio. All right, should we take one more and then we'll go to Q&A? I do not see anybody with their hands up, but we'll give you one more moment. All right, well, thank you all, for contributing to that. And again, we're raising money and riding harder and stronger than we ever have before because of COVID-19. Thank you all for doing it for those people that you raised your hand for earlier today. We're now going to go into Q&A, and I'm going to hand it right back to Danny Medley. Danny, take it away.
Thanks, Alan. And thanks everyone for sharing your stories. I appreciate that. And I do look forward to reaching out to you and hearing them and hopefully sharing them on our weekly Tuesday sharing day. I do have, let's see, we have two questions in the queue now. One from Michelle Marsh. Michelle Marsh, is there a walk-in option for those that do not ride and want to participate? We do have a walk-in option. So Strava is it's a ride and run app. Run as in walking as well. So if you wanted to track yourself and train through that, you can. That being said, For all those that want to walk instead of ride, we definitely encourage that. And if you would like to share your walk, you can do so on Strava or any one of the ride tracking apps, or, you know, in the traditional sense of just, you know, emailing me and letting me know how your walk went. And let's see, we have another one here. Let's see, from Sachin. Is there a way we can leverage Peloton rides? So we have spoken to Peloton in the past, and as I understand it, Peloton does do rides. Those are also able, you're able to link your Peloton rides and ride tracking apps. You know, Strava is the one we're pushing, but again, you can do whichever one you're comfortable with, and you can share your Peloton ride. If you're more comfortable riding indoor, you can share your distance and your virtual ride that way. So Peloton, Echelon, any of the standard stationary bikes will work as well.
And just to add to that as well, you know, we want to provide a platform or solution that's free for everyone. And so we're moving forward with the free option so that everybody has less obstacles or barriers to buy into and participating. So Strava is one of those components. We also do a meetup group, you know, for others though, for example, with Zwift. So there's a lot of solutions that are available, but across the board, we're trying to utilize those free services.
Okay.
Danny, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I know the answer, but just to share with the rest of the audience, where can we go? Like where will be the hub of the virtual Tour de Cure and the virtual roadmap to the Tour de Cure?
So, you know, I mentioned before that we're going to be using social media quite a bit. Now, we have an internal hub built on the Silicon Valley Tour de Cure that shows our leaderboard and our how much we've raised. But the hub that we're going to be using, we're going to be focused on is on Facebook, with some sharing on Instagram as well. So if you go to Facebook, search up American Diabetes Association Bay Area, you will find all the information you need on there, as well as this presentation.
All right. Well, what can I do right now?
What can you do right now, Alan?
Yeah.
I think that you should get out there and start recruiting friends and family members, and you know, consider making a donation to the American Diabetes Association.
I will do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, is there, and Mary McKinley, if we can't do a long ride all in one day, can we split up our ride over several days? Yes, we have had that question asked before. There are a couple folks that actually do have schedule conflicts on the 18th. So all we're asking for is to share your ride on the 18th. So if you decide to do a multi-day ride, which is great, be sure to share that with us, and we can post that on the 18th, and it will actually show that you went above and beyond.
And to add to that a little bit, one of the great things about the tour is that it's a fitness goal that you can implement and train all year round to achieve. So whether you're running in a 5K or you're riding in a 72-mile bike ride, the tour is that goal that you can work towards. So you could be riding, or running, every day from here into the day of the event. And the idea is to get physically active so that we can manage our blood sugar, because that's half the battle in the fight against diabetes, but also to help prevent type 2 diabetes as well.
Okay, so that is 6 o'clock. That is our allotted time. Again, thank you guys all for being here. This recording will be available, and I will be forwarding it to all the email addresses that we have on file. So feel free to take a look at this or share it with anyone that joins in the future that couldn't be here today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.